Welcome to Honeybee. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell. Real stories of love, lies, and betrayal, where every truth stings. Let's begin. Sometimes, the person who walks away from you to return to their past ends up giving you the greatest favor of your life. And sometimes heartbreak, the kind that shatters you, becomes a very spark that ignites the best version of who you can be. My name is Owen, and this is a story of how the woman I loved chose to return to the man who had already broken her once, and how that decision ended up changing everything in ways none of us could have expected. I'm 29 and work for a marketing firm in Denver, Colorado. The pay is fair, and the job offers a balance of flexibility, with remote work and project-based tasks. I met Leah 3 years ago at a friend's birthday party. The woman who would eventually become my girlfriend. She had this magnetic energy about her, the kind of warmth that drew people in effortlessly. You couldn't help but want to be around her. We clicked right away, first as friends, quickly finding that we shared a lot of common interests and an easy sense of humor. But at that time, Leah wasn't single. She'd been with her boyfriend for about 2 years. From the outside, their relationship looked passionate, even enviable to some. Yet as our friendship deepened, I began noticing the cracks behind that polished exterior. Her boyfriend was a jealous, controlling type who masked his possessiveness as love. He'd get irritated if she went out with friends without him, question her about male coworkers, and make snide remarks about her clothes or social media posts. Leah would laugh it off, saying he just loved her deeply and was scared of losing her. I felt something for Leah from the very beginning, but I kept it buried. She was with someone else, and I valued our friendship too much to ruin it by confessing feelings that might make things uncomfortable. So I stayed in my lane, the good friend, listening when she needed a vent after fights, giving advice when she asked for it, and quietly hoping she'd someday see what I felt for her. Over the next year, her relationship grew increasingly toxic. She'd message me after arguments, asking if I wanted to grab coffee. She'd invite me to hang out with her group of friends. And somehow, we always ended up sitting next to each other. There was emotional closeness between us that blurred the line between friendship and something more. But Leah seemed to need that safe space, someone who actually listened and cared without judgment. I watched as her boyfriend treated her terribly. He belittled her achievements, mocked her ideas, and demanded her time and attention while offering little affection or understanding in return. When she tried to express how his behavior hurt her, he'd twist things around, making her feel like she was a problem, that she was being too sensitive or overthinking. The breaking point came when Leah found out he'd been cheating. She stumbled upon the messages on his phone, texts that revealed not just a physical affair, but an emotional one. It turned out he'd been seeing another woman for at least 3 months, maybe longer. The hypocrisy cut deep. Leah was shattered. She'd spent years defending that man to everyone, her friends, her family, insisting he was misunderstood, that they were simply passionate. But the betrayal stripped away all those illusions. It wasn't just about him being unfaithful. It was the realization that while he'd accused her of being untrustworthy, he was the one betraying her all along. In the months that followed, I became her support system. She'd call me late at night, cry until her voice cracked, and I'd stay on the line until she could finally fall asleep. Sometimes, she'd show up at my apartment unannounced, needing someone to sit quietly beside her while she tried to piece herself back together. We'd take long walks, her talking through her pain, me listening without offering hollow reassurances. Somewhere in that stretch of time, our bond shifted. The friendship we'd built started to feel like something more, not because she was broken and I wanted to fix her, but because being together simply felt right. We laughed again. We talked about dreams, work, life, things that had nothing to do with her past relationship. About 6 months after her breakup, everything between us reached a turning point. One quiet evening, while we were sitting together on her couch, I finally said what I'd been holding back for years. I told her that I had feelings for her since the day we met, that I'd never said anything out of respect for her relationship, but that I'd always hoped, deep down, that someday we'd get our chance. Leah sat silently for a moment, her eyes softening. Then she admitted that she'd probably felt the same way for months, but hadn't wanted to acknowledge it while she was still healing. That conversation was terrifying and freeing at the same time. For the first time, everything was out in the open. A week later, we officially started dating. And for a while, it was everything I'd ever wanted. Those first few months were blissful in a way my past relationships had never been. We already had trust, understanding, and shared history. We knew each other's quirks and rhythms, how to comfort, how to communicate. We fit naturally into each other's lives, almost effortlessly. By the time we reached our first anniversary, our life together felt easy and settled. She'd come over after work, and we'd cook dinner side by side, chatting about our days. Fridays were movie nights. We took turns picking what to watch. On weekends, we'd grab coffee from our favorite cafe before heading to the farmer's market or out on a hiking trail. After years of fleeting connections and relationships that never stuck, that stability meant everything to me. It felt like I'd finally found the kind of partnership I'd always been looking for. Someone who felt like home. Leah often told me how different things were compared to her ex, how peaceful and balanced we were, how grateful she was for that change. I believed her, but sometimes small things made me pause. She'd mention her ex now and then, often in passing. A place they'd gone, a song they'd loved, or a memory sparked by something random. Sometimes she'd compare moments we shared to ones from her past. She always insisted they were just harmless recollections, but I couldn't ignore how often they slipped into our conversations. It was like a small thread connecting her back to something she still hadn't completely let go of. I tried to stay understanding. Everyone has a past. Memories don't just disappear. I didn't want to be controlling or insecure. I told myself to trust her, to believe she was with me because she wanted to be, not because she needed someone safe after heartbreak. But deep down, I worried. I couldn't shake the thought that maybe she hadn't fully healed before jumping into something new. That maybe I was a comfortable choice, the steady presence she turned to after chaos. I worried that, in her heart, she was still looking backward, not forward. Still, I buried those doubts. On paper, we were perfect, no big arguments, shared goals, genuine affection. It all looked right. So I convinced myself it was just overthinking. Then came the night that changed everything. It was a Tuesday, about 13 months into our relationship. I stopped by her apartment after work, expecting our usual evening of dinner and Netflix. But the moment I walked in, I sensed something was off. Leah was distant, quieter than usual, her thoughts clearly somewhere else. After dinner, she said she needed to talk. The tone in her voice told me it wasn't good. That hesitant, nervous way people sound when they've already made up their mind but haven't yet found the words to say it. My stomach dropped. She told me she'd been thinking a lot about us, about where things were going. She said she cared deeply for me, valued everything we'd shared, but that she'd been feeling uncertain about her emotions lately. And then she said the line that replayed in my mind for months afterward. Maybe we should just go back to being friends. I don't know. My ex has been calling again. The world seemed to tilt for a moment. Her words hit like a quiet storm. Her ex was back, the same man who had cheated, lied, and torn her apart. And now, she was thinking about giving him another chance. Inside, I wanted to ask 1,000 questions. How long had he been reaching out? Why hadn't she told me sooner? Why throw away someone who'd been loyal, kind, and constant for someone who'd already proven he couldn't love her right? But I said none of it, because I knew. Once someone starts looking backward, no amount of pleading can make them see the present clearly. If she couldn't see the difference between his chaos and what we'd built together, then nothing I said would change her mind. So I just nodded and said softly, "If that's what you want." My voice was steady, but inside, everything in me cracked open. I gathered my things, gave her one last brief hug, and walked out. Driving home, I half expected my phone to buzz, for her to say she made a mistake, that she didn't mean it. But the silence stayed, and in that silence, I realized she had truly chosen her past over our future. The days after that confrontation felt like walking through a storm. Every moment replayed in my mind. Her expression when she saw me standing there, the silence that followed, the way my heart shattered while she tried to find words that didn't exist. I stayed away from home for a few nights, sleeping in my car, thinking that distance might dull the pain, but it didn't. When I finally went back, the house didn't feel like mine anymore. The laughter, the warmth, the little inside jokes, all gone. She tried to talk, crying, begging for a chance to explain. But what could she possibly say that would undo what she had done? "I made a mistake," she said. "It didn't mean anything." Those words hit me harder than anything else. How could something that meant nothing destroy everything that meant everything to me? I wanted to scream. I wanted to hate her. But the truth is, part of me still loved her. That's what made it unbearable. Love doesn't just switch off because someone betrays you. It lingers, twisting the knife deeper. I started seeing a lawyer soon after. It wasn't about revenge. It was about ending a chapter that could never be repaired. When I filed for divorce, she cried again, not out of guilt, but fear. Fear of losing the life we built, the comfort, the stability. Maybe even me. The months that followed were some of the darkest of my life. I threw myself into work, hoping exhaustion would silence my thoughts. But no matter how busy I kept myself, her voice, her face, the image of that night, they followed me everywhere. Our daughter, poor thing, was caught in the middle. She didn't understand at first. She only knew that her father had stopped smiling, and her mother cried a lot. I tried to shield her from the pain, but kids see more than we think. One day she asked, "Dad, why don't you and Mom talk anymore?" I had no words. How do you tell your child that the person who gave her life also broke yours? The divorce became final 6 months later. I moved out completely, leaving the house to her and our daughter. I thought I was doing the right thing, giving them stability, a home. But the emptiness that followed almost consumed me. Nights were long and quiet. I'd sit in the dark, thinking about where things went wrong, wondering if I could have done something different. It wasn't just losing her. It was losing the version of myself that believed love was unbreakable. Years passed, and slowly, life began to heal itself. I met new people, made new friends, and learned to live again. But scars don't fade completely. Every time I saw my daughter, now older and wiser, I was reminded of everything that was lost. She became the bridge between two worlds that could never meet again. Then one afternoon, I got a message from my ex-wife. After all those years of silence, seeing her name on my phone froze me. She wrote, "Can we talk?" My first instinct was to ignore it. But curiosity and old emotions are powerful things. We met at a small cafe downtown. She looked different, older, softer, maybe regretful. The confidence she once carried had been replaced by something quieter. She spoke first. "I know I have no right to ask for forgiveness, but I need to say it anyway. I ruined everything. I think about it every day." I listened quietly. For once, I didn't feel anger, just sadness. The kind that comes when you realize the person who once meant everything has become a stranger you used to know. "I forgave you a long time ago," I said. "But forgiveness doesn't mean forgetting." She nodded, eyes glistening. "I understand. I just wanted you to know I'm sorry." We sat there for a while. Two people who had shared a lifetime, but no longer belonged to each other. There was peace in that silence, not the painful kind, but the kind that lets you breathe again. As I left that cafe, I realized that sometimes closure isn't a dramatic ending. It's a quiet moment when you finally let go of the weight you've been carrying for years. And though betrayal broke me once, healing taught me something deeper. That peace doesn't come from fixing what's broken, but from learning to live with the cracks. That was the day I truly moved on.